What's up, guys? The biggest superhero movie of the year just dropped, and I'd like to talk about it, because I just watched James Gunn's Superman movie in IMAX. I've spent the last couple weeks catching up on one Superman movie from each theatrical era. And what do I think about it? Superman doesn't have that many good movies. I mean, obviously there's the Richard Donner classic, The Lightning in a Bottle, The Grandfather, the first real superhero movie, a great movie that holds up almost 50 years later. And then they made Superman Returns. What the hell happened here? I can't even get into it. The movie's just a shit show, straight up. It's the opposite of everything great they did in that original movie. And then there's Man of Steel, which I feel like I like more than most people that aren't trapped in Zack Snyder's online cult. Not a lot of good writing, but they have hype moments and aura. Hans Zimmer's Flight theme inspires something visceral in me to this day. But we're not here to talk about those other movies, we're here to talk about James Gunn's Superman reboot that is meant to kick off the new era of DC live-action movies, the DCU. So what's happening in this movie? Superman's in Metropolis, the Daily Planet is doing Daily Planet journalism things, Lex Luthor's up to no good. It's a Superman movie. They are really just going back to basics, which I really liked. I think they did a good job of just going back to the basics and honing in on the mass appeal of this character. This is not an origin movie by any means. We just get right into it. You definitely see a lot of influence on Superman movies of the past, especially in the score, doing a lot of different renditions of that iconic Superman John Williams theme. But similar to Zack Snyder's two Superman movies, you get a lot of story and themes about what it means to be an idealistic, hopeful figure like Superman in a politically torn world that doesn't always welcome someone like that. Let's just get down to it. I liked the movie. It's a fun time, it's a great popcorn movie, it's a great Superman movie, it's a great superhero movie. This is absolutely a good start to James Gunn's clean slate of superhero movies. So let's start with the man himself. David Corenswet as Superman is utterly fantastic. This has to be one of the best comic book castings I've ever seen, and definitely the best comic book casting since probably Charlie Cox as Daredevil, if I'm gonna be honest. His tones, his mannerisms, his posture, the divide between Clark Kent and Superman, he plays him with an earnestness, a strength, a kindness, a compassion that honestly would make Christopher Reeve very proud. They brought back the Boy Scout and Superman. Superman hasn't been a good-hearted Boy Scout since the original Richard Donner movie in live action, and they knocked it out of the park. I loved him in this role. Moody Superman, evil Superman is out the goddamn door. We are done with that. We are back to hopium. This version of Superman values every form of life, human or otherwise. A giant monster is attacking the city, and you see him going out of his way to save a squirrel, for crying out loud. There are several scenes of this movie dedicated to Superman saving people. Superheroes should be saving people. Sounds like a no-brainer, but several movies in the last 10 years seem to have forgotten that fact. And his dynamics with the other characters is so perfect, especially with Lois Lane. Rachel Brosnahan. Yes, 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 yes. They did it. James Gunn has talked about how he cast Superman and Lois together to make sure their chemistry was on point, and it really shows in the final product. These two are electric on screen. I loved every moment they got to share together. This version of Lois is my favorite version since that animated series, where it's like, yes, she is a hard-nosed reporter. She loves the scoop. She is willing to do anything for her stories. She has a feistiness to her. She won't take no for an answer, but there's plenty of heart and humor with this depiction of Lois. Great job. I also love Nicholas Holt's take on Lex Luthor. He is not doing whatever the hell Jesse Eisenberg was doing, the neurotic billionaire that just keeps going, hoop, hoop, hoo. It's almost impossible to watch this movie without Lex Luthor getting under your skin for a million different reasons, and Nicholas Holt just does such a good job with bringing that kind of sleaziness, but he's also so cold-hearted and calculating and manipulative. They did such a good job of making him a formidable antagonist for Superman. In the scenes he shares with David Corenswet, you feel that rivalry just burst off the screen. Pretty healthy ensemble of side characters and other heroes that do a great job in this movie. The standout of that bunch for me being Edie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific. His more level-headed demeanor did a really good job of playing off Guy Gardner's antics. Nathan Fillion does a really good job as Green Lantern. This dude is a tool, just like in the comics. But Mr. Terrific had a really great standout action sequence that honestly reminded me of Yondu's breakout scene in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and was probably my favorite action sequence in the movie as a whole. What I really like is the world building around Superman, Metropolis, the characters, the Fortress of Solitude. It's all really well realized. It's just a very vivid depiction of this world and these characters. Metropolis feels more alive than ever. The movie frequently goes out of its way to show the impact that Superman has on everyday people and how he really connects with them. Not gonna get too into detail here, but it's almost impossible to divorce this movie from its political themes and identity. At the end of the day, Superman is an immigrant story, and if that bothers you for some reason, this movie might not be for you, because the characters and the story kind of revolve around that fact. The story is filled with political turmoil that has clear allegory to current world events and is a clear middle finger to everything a certain regime is doing in the Middle East. This is the most blatantly anti-fascist movie I've watched in the theater since Mickey 17, but you guys didn't watch that and I didn't review it, so my bad. It is refreshing to watch a superhero movie and a comic book blockbuster that is genuinely hopeful, that genuinely believes in the good of people. And that's what Superman means, as a symbol of hope, to inspire, to try again the next day. All that good shit is in here in spades, and I loved it. But there's still quite a few things that bothered me and stopped this movie from being great, all-timer, Mount Rushmore. The first thing is the plot. This is a very busy movie when it comes to its story. There's so many moving elements at the same time. It feels like it can't really take a moment to sit down and breathe. Which sucks, because the character writing and development is genuinely terrific. Whenever the movie was able to take a beat and slow down and just let the characters feel genuine emotions, I felt it. James Gunn does sincere emotion very well in his movies. Another thing that bothered me was how generic the third act felt. This is something I feel non-comic book movies and just traditional thrillers do very well. Let the climax of the movie just be about the protagonist versus the antagonist. Make it about their conflict. Make it about their rivalry. You don't have to introduce some world-ending stakes that we know they're gonna wrap up with a nice little bow by the end of the movie. Oh no, this subsection of the planet's about to collapse. You're gonna create a black hole and it could create a rift in our universe. We don't care. We've been watching sky beams and portals for the last 20 years in these movies. We know you're gonna solve it. Just get to the good stuff. So that stuff didn't really add to the story. The last thing that kind of bothered me was the humor. I feel like James Gunn was just trying to write as much of a generally pleasing, generic action movie as possible, and his signature brand of wit and banter doesn't really come out in the writing. So much of the humor of this movie isn't really clever or uniquely Gunn, it's just characters reacting to what's going on around them in the most "will that just happen" sort of way. I haven't talked much about the action. It's a little all over the place. The movie was shot for IMAX and it does look gorgeous on that screen. The camera work is really dynamic with the CGI and the visuals. It feels like a lot of the times when Superman's whipping across the city and he's flying and he's doing his thing, it feels like the camera is struggling to keep up with him, which was so cool. But between the rubbery looking CGI in points and just how visually chaotic this movie gets, my brain was just kind of registering noise. The movie is just kind of visually noisy with a lot of the action sequences, and it didn't make it as enjoyable to follow. So those things kind of held the movie back for me. It stopped me from being completely blown away, but again, all this is to say, I had a great time watching Superman. This was a good time at the movies. I'm gonna give James Gunn's Superman a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for listening to my thoughts on Superman. We're just getting started with the summer, baby. 2 more weeks and we have the Fantastic Four. I gotta rewatch those older ones. It's been a minute. But regardless, if you made it towards the end, what are you doing not liking the video and subscribing to the channel? You're doing me a huge favor and I appreciate you. I am Pac. Thanks so much for hearing my perspective. And I'm out for now.